That's Meshima, Phellinus igniarius. A lot of people ask me if chaga has any lookalikes. If you want to call this a lookalike, I guess you could say that chaga does have one prominent lookalike. That is an awesome piece of Phellinus igniarius. This mushroom is not very well known, probably due to the fact it has a lot of common names. This is known as Meshima, the willow bracket, fire sponge, false chaga, and there's others. Phellinus almost has a chaga-like look on top, except there's always a little bit of moss on it. And then on the bottom, it has your traditional polypore pore structure for the spores. Here's another cute example of Phellinus igniarius, Meshima, the island of women, growing on a beech tree. That is more often what I see them growing on. And they're up in high elevations. So if you go up to the high elevations where it's predominantly beech trees, you're gonna find a lot of this stuff. It's a great healing mushroom. Phellinus igniarius, Meshima mushroom. This translates in Japan and Japanese to the woman's island. That's what Meshima means, the island of women. And this has been coveted for women's health in traditional Asian cultures. It's extremely popular in South Korea. In fact, we were on this TV channel called TV Chosun, which is the largest network in South Korea. And I'll show you guys a little bit of that documentary that we were fortunate enough to participate in.
파트너이기도 한 주인공을 직접 만나볼 수 있었습니다. 그는 의외로 30대의 건강한 젊은 청년이었는데요. 에드론덱산. 한참을 헤매던 그때 드디어 찾은 걸까요? 가파른 언덕, 땅이 보이지도 않을 만큼 온통 눈으로 뒤덮인 이곳에 무엇이 있다는 걸까요? 차가운 눈을 버텨내고 고고하게 자리 잡은 묵직한 자태.
It looks like it's big enough to harvest too. Right above it, I think that's another little baby Phellinus. Just another gift of the Adirondack Mountains and medicinal mushrooms. Yeah.
자연이 준 신비의 영야. 미국에서 찾은 위대한 유산은 바로 장수 상황버섯이었습니다. 암 투병 중인 친정엄마. 장수 상황버섯 5조각 정도를 엄청난 시간과 세심한 노력을 쏟아부어야만 장수 상황버섯 속의 영양을 오롯이 얻어낼 수 있는 건데요. 물의 양이 3분의 1 정도로 줄어들면 드디어 기나긴 대장정.
South Korea is going crazy about this mushroom, and it's for its anti-cancer benefits, for its unique compounds and triterpenes. It has a compound called hispidin, which basically boosts the immune system, and the beta-glucans in Meshima boost the immune system by mimicking a fungal invader, and it actually basically creates more fighter T cells and creates this body response to what is perceived as an invader, but the hispidin and the beta-glucans are not actually bad for you. So there's some unique research on Meshima. I'm still trying to understand it myself. Some people can mistake this as chaga. It's been called false chaga, fire sponge, the willow bracket, Meshima, Phellinus. It has a lot of names. This is on a yellow birch tree, so it is one of those mushrooms that can grow on beech trees, on birch trees, obviously on willow trees like we were just talking about, various hardwoods. But to distinguish it from chaga, just know that it is always going to have this typical spore bottom, like this spore-bearing bottom, where chaga won't have that. And Phellinus has some sort of symbiotic relationship with moss going on, so you'll frequently see moss or lichen kind of growing on top. And we'll harvest this and give you guys a better look. Phellinus igniarius. We'll try some together on video later. Little tip, I would definitely recommend that you chop this into smaller pieces as soon as you bring it in to dry. Chop it up while it's still fresh because it's very hard. It's definitely like harder than chaga even to chop. It's the hardest mushroom to chop. So if you wait till it dries, well, number one, it's going to dry a lot slower if you don't chop it and break it up, and it might mold. But even if it didn't mold, if you wait until it's dry, it's going to be extremely hard and very difficult to break. Let's brew some tea. A couple observations about this Phellinus tea as it's brewing. Definitely takes longer to get dark than chaga, but I don't know if it will get as dark as chaga. It looks delicious. Smells a little mushroomy. And I'm gonna let it keep brewing because I don't know if it's in good strength, but I'm gonna let it cool, pour it in a little cup. I'm gonna have my first little sip. Meshima. All right, the moment of truth when we see how Meshima actually tastes. It's still hot. I was expecting this to be a lot more bitter. Really just based on how the mushroom looks, how Meshima looks, with the moss growing on it, I was really expecting like this pungent, earthy, bitter flavor. And that is not present at all. So there is kind of like a mushroom flavor and almost like a rose hip flavor. Overall, it's definitely high ranking in the list of pleasant tasting bark eating mushrooms. I could drink this as is, but I think it would go good with mint, probably honey. I think it's good just on its own, just plain like this. It really is kind of too hot to drink much right now, but I'm gonna let it cool for a couple minutes, and then I'm gonna kind of chug the rest of this and let you guys know if I actually feel any physical sensation, any differences that are tangible or noticeable from drinking this tea. I know anti-aging properties was another one of the benefits that this mushroom was supposedly coveted for among women in Japan. I definitely feel something. I can't quite think of how to describe it. I mean, obviously I feel warmed, which happens drinking any tea, I suppose. But I feel very like there is a concentration right here on my heart and lungs and esophagus area. Like I really like I felt the Meshima go in there, and I feel it in there still. If anything, physically, I'm feeling definitely like a calming sensation, and mentally, just a clarity and a slowing of pace.